How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to another League Starter video. You'll see on screen a post that I've seen on Reddit today that kind of annoyed the absolute hell out of me, but that's a different story in and of itself. It says that 90% of build guides are clickbait and unrealistic. Now, in regards to some content creators, sure, I suppose that's the case. Some people do cheat their path of building as much as possible and take that sort of route, and I'm not going to deny that. Some people do that. Myself, personally, I don't. But in regards to this, I did read through the thread and saw a couple of things, and people are looking for, or want, SSF viable, simple, beginner-friendly builds. And I do my best to do that pretty much every single time, but I'm going to give you my 3 most beginner-friendly, solo self-found viable, played builds that work just fine in this video. I'm going to thoroughly describe every single one, how you can play it, how it works, how it functions, and everything that you can do. Two of the 3 builds today are SSF builds. One is a Trade League build for those of you who play Trade League. It is achievable in solo self-found, though, if you drop Facebreakers. Now, I'm going to warn you ahead of time, these are all Marauder builds. If you want a build that I'm well versed in, it's going to be builds I've played. I play a lot of Marauder, thus Marauder builds. They are changeable to work for other classes. You can play it as, you can play some of them as Witch, you can play some of them as Templar, you can play some of them as Duelist, if you want to. You could even play some as Ranger, if you really want to go and reverse engineer some of the skill tree. But if you just want to take it from this video, those are going to be the builds that I have for you today. The characters, if you're curious ahead of time, are Herald of Agony Juggernaut, Shockwave Totem Chieftain, and a Ancestral War Chief Chieftain. Those are the characters I'm going to be showing you. I have played all of them. They all work in solo self-found, they're all simple as hell, and they're all effective. Alright, so we're going to start off with the Shockwave Totem Chieftain. This is my exact character that I played during the league. Now, because of the way I'm doing this video, I want to get it out as fast as possible, because we're all in every single content creator is in crunch time during the league start scenario, because we have to wait for the patch notes, and then we have 3 days where our content creation is actually viable, or people don't yell at us for, oh, you should just wait for patch notes. So as a result, since my editing software takes like 2 hours to render something, I'm just going to link in the, I think it's that corner, to the video of me playing this character. So you'll see up there, there'll be the build guide or gameplay of this Shockwave Totem character. I have gameplay for this. I don't have gameplay for the Herald of Agony character, but I did play it. I promise you, I played it. And I have gameplay of another version of the War Chiefer, and I will link to those in the corner as we get to them. Alright, so we're going to start off with the skill tree of the Shockwave Totem Chieftain. We go for as much life as possible, pick up Warrior's Blood and Heart of the Warrior. Come up to get Primal Manifestation for totem damage and totem life. Grab the jewel slot here, which I went for totem damage and attack and cast speed, because the thing about Shockwave Totem is it scales very heavily off of cast speed. So as a result, you want as much as you can realistically get. Grab the life wheel there later on if you find yourself needing some. Pop up to get more life here and get elemental resistances, because we're in solo self-found, so might as well grab that. Cast speed and spell damage here, and AoE from Amplify. Moving onwards, we have Quick Recovery, we have Shamanistic Fury for damage, we have Elemental Overload. Now, Elemental Overload will inflate damage numbers for a lot of people's path of buildings, and even if they can't proc it, so some people will run like, they'll put in Elemental Overload in their RF build to make it look insane. Now, the reason for that is that Elemental Overload on a lot of builds can't proc manually. In this build, it actually can, but I have another way that I go about things with, where is it? I'm trying to fucking remember. You can use Orb of Storms to proc your Elemental Overload to get more damage. But with this build, because of Shockwave Totem actually doing hits, it procs itself. So as a result, we get 40% more damage from Elemental Overload, just baseline. We have, I believe it's 3 or 4 totems in this build, doing roughly about 1,000,000 DPS in total. You can kill pretty much anything. I went up to, I think it was tier 14 or 15 in solo self-found with this. Didn't have any issue whatsoever. So keep an eye on like elemental overload stuff when you're looking at other people's path of buildings, because sometimes it'll be inflated on builds that just can't proc it itself. So, moving onwards, we get spell damage and cast speed there, some fire damage and cast speed. Keep in mind, cast speed is huge. So much so, we take the cast speed here and leave out the spell damage. We actually get more mileage out of those nodes for this this skill. Life, intelligence, so then I can come up here and get blast radius. This also sorts out the intelligence stat problems. And then we make our way up to grab Avatar of Fire, because the way that Shockwave Totem works in here is that it actually is a spell that deals physical damage, which as a result means we want to convert it. So we use Avatar of Fire for 50% conversion, and then we use the Chieftain node, Nagamu's Flame Advance, for 50% physical to fire. This is the reason we play Chieftain. If you can manage to achieve 50% Fizz to Fire elsewhere, and still manage to get the Avatar Fire node, you could easily play Templar, you could easily play Witch, you could even play Scion if you wanted to. I don't know if that actually works. Let me have a check here. Sadly, it wouldn't work the way I was thinking it could, but if you could manage it, you could play Scion, pick up Chieftain, pick up Hierophant to get an additional totem, and potentially try that. Or you can go Templar for the bonus totem, plus I think it's Arcane Surge. So you can take that route as well if you don't want to play it Chieftain, but you do have to come across 50% Fizz Convert to Fire. Alright, then we come down, get the 2 points of life, grab Ancestral Bond so that we get the extra totem. This build works just fine on 2 totems. I played it on 2 for most of the time until I found a Shaper Shield that gave me +1. It wasn't exactly rolled that well. I managed to get very lucky with a high life roll on an already Res shield, so it worked out pretty well for me. This is going to be harder to get now. I don't know if the number of casted totems is going to move on to an attainable influence. I'm not entirely sure. But you could also use the Tukahama's Fortress if you're really in a pinch and want to try that. Otherwise, you can run just 2, or you can run just 2 and then use a Soul Mantle and get just as much mileage there. I wound up going to 4 eventually, if I remember right, because I did get a Soul Mantle in that regard. It tanked my life quite a bit, but added a lot of damage. Oh, man. And then we grab Spiritual Aid, because this is actually a very good damage modifier, just in general, for spell builds or melee builds. It's a little bit odd, but trust me, it works. Then we get Divine Judgment here, and Divine Wrath. This exact pathing is the most optimal you can get for the build, because trust me, I went through and did all the numbers on it when I was playing it myself. And up over here, we get the extra bit of life here. We get mana and mana regenerate and intelligence to sort out our stat problems. This might be cuttable. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I have played the character. Don't remember why I took that exactly. And then we get Heart of Flames and Breath of Flames for as much damage as we can. Over in the Ascendancy, we of course get Nagamu's Flame Advance. This is the first node you're going to want to get while leveling. You get Flame Advance, you rush straight up and all the way through here. Pick up Avatar of Fire, come down, get Ancestral Bond. And that's going to be how you level. You'll be at 100% Fizz to Fire, you'll have Ancestral Bond. You could level at War Chief if you wanted to, and then switch over later on. So grab that first. Then we have Ramako's Sunlight for fire damage over time, multiplier, and penetrating resistance. We have Moon Presence for enemies near your totem deal less damage and take increased damage, and this actually is one of the biggest nodes in the build that makes it viable at endgame. Totems are immune to fire damage. They're doing 100% fire, that means they don't kill themselves to reflect. So now you can run Fizz Reflect, you can run Elemental Reflect, and not have any issue whatsoever. And then we have Tukahama's War Herald, which is arguably the most important node, or second most important node while leveling. I would go Flame Advance, War Herald, and then Moon Presence. Reason being, this gives you 1% of damage dealt by your totems is leached to you as life, and gives you increased AoE while you have a totem. This actually didn't exist when I played this build. I played it at a league earlier. So that AoE is basically just a free modifier I didn't have on mine, and it already did really good AoE. It was kind of fucking insane. but they just moved the damage leech off of this one, sadly, or off of one of the other ones. But this is the preferred Ascendancy pathing. And 2 skills: Shockwave Totem, Controlled Destruction, Conk Effect, Added Fire, Ellie Focus. Works just fine. Conk Effect can be switched to AoE if you want to map faster. Conk Effect was just what I sat on. I wasn't a big fan of switching it back and forth, so it worked out just fine for me. In regards to all of this, we have Cast when Immortal Call, Herald of Ash, and a Cast when Flammability for whatever reason. I don't know exactly how that was going about, but the thing is with this build, you don't really get to apply Flammability all that often. But this was the best way I had found to actually apply it without burning all of my mana on Blasphemy. Because the way you're playing this sort of build normally is you're dropping your totems and then you're running away. So blaspheming your curse is pretty irrelevant. So this was one of the best ways that I found to apply it. Because then when your Immortal Call goes off, if you're in the fray of things, then your Flammability goes off, it takes bonus damage, and you're good to go. Getting a viable curse set up on a totem build's kind of a pain in the ass most times, unless you're in the thick of things, which you're not very often. This allows you to kill things that jump on you that much faster, because they'll get cursed, they'll take bonus damage, and you can remove the threat easier. Going down into the next setup, we have Enduring Cry, Phase Run, Blasphemy, Temp Chains. This is a survivability setup because, as I said, we're trying to be as durable as possible, and this was something I was messing around with because I had heard people used it a lot in hardcore. So Blasphemy, Temp Chains was actually exceptional in regards to survivability. They would jump on me, they would be slowed, and then if they hit me pretty hard, they would be Flammability, which overwrote the slow, and then I killed them. Worked out swimmingly well. Vol RF is our bossing damage multiplier, since it gives a bunch of spell damage. It will sacrifice a decent amount of your health, but that's fine since you should be in the back anyways. If there's a bunch of enemies, you just pop this and it'll give you a shit ton of spell damage, and you'll do a bunch of bonus damage. Flame Dash Arcane Surge is the way of keeping Arcane Surge up permanently, and this gives you a nice damage bonus as well as good mana regeneration. Cast when Stone Golem is my preferred option because it gives you basically 100 free life regeneration, which is pretty insane and can carry you through leveling and makes you very, very durable in the late game. Cast when damage taken means it's automatically just up 24/7. You don't have to worry about it anymore. All of these were backpacked Shockwave Totems because I was trying to get a level 20 to corrupt it for 21. Itemization, we have a wand with spell damage, fire to spells, increased fire damage, and percent implicit spell damage. This wand rolled like absolute garbage, and it still carried me to tier 14, tier 15, and I had no issues whatsoever. You want a heavy spell damage wand with fire to spells if possible, and fire percent. Just kind of as close as I could get, but all in all, it still could have been a lot better. Shield is just there for the +1 totems and then life res. You can use double wands if you want to, if you can't pick up the shield mod anymore. The +1 totems there. You can use 2 wands if you're looking for that. I actually landed a Flammability Curse effect on my Hrimnors. Hrimnors is the best piece you can manage, and I also had Wind Screams for an additional curse. Obviously, this is if you land it. If you don't land it, you're still going to be just as fine. Hrimnors drops very often for me, and this is going to be transitionable into the Chieftain build later on if you want to use it there as well. That drops quite often. Then I have an Astral Plate, which I rolled with a Life Fossil, which is sadly getting nerfed because GGG hates Delve, but such is life. So Astral Plate, very good if you can just roll a heavy life mod on this, you'll be pretty good. Or you can use a Soul Mantle for more damage. If you use a Soul Mantle, you can bypass its curses it gives you by using a Curse Immune Flask, and basically bypass the downside of the chest piece for a free extra totem. If you want to know how to get Soul Mantle, at least I drop them personally quite often from either Einhar or Incursion. That's where I found most of mine. I think I found 3 in Incursion, like the armor vaults. I don't know why, they just seem to drop there pretty often. Then I have Spiked Gloves. These were just gloves that rolled well. Life, res, minion damage. Minion damage is actually a bonus because of Spiritual Aid, right? So you can cheese extra damage there. Wind Screams, if you get them, use them. If you don't, any good boots with good movement speed will do. Necklace with cast speed craft. Life rings. Got some rarity there, because why not? Stygian Vise with Fizz the spells, and max life. If I can roll it, you can roll it. That's the best modifier that you can land for a Stygian Vise. Or alternatively, just use a big leather belt. And then flask-wise, we have the standard of life, onslaught, movement speed, armor, movement speed. Make sure to get bleed removal, freeze removal, curse removal for when you use the fuck's it called? Soul Mantle. And then Adrenaline Quicksilver, and the one jewel I got. And that is the Shockwave Totem character. That was 15 minutes, holy fuck. Alright, and we're trying to speed things up a little bit. Next character, we have Herald of Agony, Juggernaut. Let me try and find that one. Right there. I have played this character. The only downside to this character is it is fucking boring. If you're not into the style of Herald of Agony, you will be kind of bored. And that was the problem that I had with it, was it was very effective and it cleared stupidly easily. And it was really effective, but the problem I had was it was mind-numbing as fuck. Essentially, you take Herald of Agony and modify it as much as possible, and use your use Cyclone to keep the Herald of Agony stacks up through Poison, Fortify, and Blood Magic. Then use all of your mana pool for auras and boost the absolute shit out of the Herald of Agony itself. You want to basically have it 100% reserved with supports and put on whatever else you can. And then you just Cyclone 24/7. You're the curse applicant, so you can use Curse on Hit in here as well to give it projectile weakness. I was using cast when damage taken on level 1, so it just, popped off over and over again. And you're in the fray with Cyclone spinning, poisoning, keeping 40 poison stacks up, and constantly putting proj weakness on things for your overly buff Herald of Agony to just throw a tail spike and one-shot the pack. The downside was I was playing a character where it felt like I had no control and the AI was just doing everything, which is basically a minion build in the first place. But it was more kind of enunciated with this, where Cyclone was just boring as shit. I played it on old Cyclone as well, so new Cyclone with the AoE changes is probably even better for this sort of build. And Herald of Agony did get slightly touched a little bit during the nerfs of the last league, but still. This is my itemization. So if anyone says not SSF friendly, yeah. All you really need, and you don't even need it, is a Bone Helmet. This gives you minions deal increased damage. Other than that, put in whatever the fuck you feel like, because we have enough damage just as is to clear up to probably tier 14, 15, just with what we've got currently. So you can put in any sort of minion multiplier. They added in the new minion, what was it, wand or scepter or something like that. You can use a scepter plus a shield and shield charge. You can use double scepters. You can use double wands with minion damage. Although double wands with minion damage means you can't Cyclone. So double minion damage scepters, and then Cyclone. I think that's what I was using when I was playing this. What else? Life everywhere. Minion damage on the gloves. You can probably get minion damage on the rings. You could probably use an Essence Worm. Actually, no, you can't because you're using Herald of Agony. Never mind. Yeah. Nice itemization, right? I know. So, in regards to the skills, I'll just cover these quickly. We've got Herald of Agony, damage on full life, minion damage, pierce, vicious projectiles, and vile toxins. This means that its tail spike goes through a bunch of targets, and its tail spike is doing a shit ton of damage. This also deals more damage for each poison on the enemy. We're manually poisoning with poison and lesser poison for 100%. You got 60-40, and fortify there, as well as blood magic to make it so you can Cyclone without worrying about mana, since all of our mana is reserved into Herald of Agony. We're also running a Generosity Hatred here to take up the last percent that Herald of Agony doesn't take, and that gives us the most damage we can actually muster in this. And then we have Cast When Projectile Weakness. You could also use Curse on Hit Projectile Weakness in here if you wanted to. and then put Fortify on like a Leap Slam or something. And then we have a Vol Haste. You can turn that on if you want to for bossing and whatnot. And the Flesh Offering gives us some nice bonus damage. You'll have to link Flesh Offering to Blood Magic if you want to make that work as well. Actually, no. Cast when will manually cast Flesh Offering just as you're going. Whenever you get hit, it'll just pop off a corpse. Damage will go up. So, cast when Stone Golem for more survivability. We have 200% life, 600 life regen. No War Cry in here, by the way. This is just as the character is. And yeah, that's our configuration tab, in case you're curious. And here is our skill tree. So life, grab the life there, come down. Life, Art of the Gladiator for ignoring movement speed penalties on attack speed, plus dexterity. Life, endurance charge. Come all the way up here. Life, res tech so you don't miss. Endurance charge, max life regen per endurance charge. Life, a life, endurance charge, minion damage, reduce reserve to have the auras, life, life regen, minion damage, life. Go over here, life, life regen, minion damage, and equilibrium. I don't know why this is slotted. It doesn't really do anything. I don't know why. You can slot out those two and do whatever else you want with it, really. So, yeah, that's the skill tree. And that's the character. Herald of Agony Juggernaut works exceptionally well, clears stupidly well. We'll delve very, very easily. We'll do incursion content probably easily. Betrayal will be a fucking joke. If your betrayal, like, crashes your PC still, play something like this. You're basically unkillable, and the thing runs server side versus running client side. So if your client freezes, it will still do damage, so it's hardcore valuable as well, because it can kill everything around you that is trying to kill you when you disconnect, potentially saving your character. Alright, and onwards to our final one. Let me find it here. My Facebreaker Chieftain. Now this is Trade League, but if you can get a pair of Facebreakers, you can use this in solo self-found. It is heavily using a lot of uniques. You can trade these in and out as you find them, or you can just use Facebreakers and fill everything else. It gets better the more uniques that you manage to get, and the only problem that it ends up having is resist capping, which is achievable in solo self-found if you take a couple of different routes. But if you can also, how do I say this correctly? If you're using a lot of uniques, it means you can dump a lot of your currency into rolling the best possible pieces for the few slots you have to fill. So as a result, you use, say, 70 Chaos trying to roll the perfect ring instead of spreading the 70C across your whole armor set, right? Because you've already got the rest of your gear decided. Facebreakers is what makes this build work. This is a 1C unique in Trade League, normally, unless a bunch of people are playing it because Mathel played it once. Who knows? This makes it so you do 700% more unarmed damage. It can top out at 800% and bottom out at 600. So if you're using a 600 pair, don't. Buy a pair that's around 750 that'll cost maybe 5C maximum. I sold a 799 pair at 30 Chaos, something like that. So if you've got the money, go upwards. If not, doesn't really make a difference. Then we're running Soul Mantle for the bonus totem. Remember how I told you to bypass this with the Curse Immune Flask, which I don't think I actually have in here. But use a Curse Immune Flask and Soul Mantle isn't an issue. Gives us 2 totems there. We have Ancestral Bond for a 3rd totem, and then a rolled Tower Shield for a 4th totem. Obviously, might not be achievable. You may only have 2 totems, but that's fine, because that's still 1.4 million DPS. No weapon, because of the way Facebreakers works. It does unarmed damage, so you don't have to invest into a weapon. All you need to get is a shield if you want to go that route to get the +1 number of maximum summoned totems. You can go to Gahama's Fortress and do some reverse engineering if you need to take that route as well. Dyed Bellow gives added physical to attacks. This is something we're going to want on all of the uniques, and is the reason we're using so many uniques, is you want an added base of physical damage for Facebreakers to multiply off of. Think of it like this. It's not going to be the exact math. Don't criticize me on it. You get 10 to 20 added physical, and so say you've got your 10 added physical, Facebreaker takes it and multiplies it by 700%, and you're off. So you want to get that 10 added physical as high as possible. So as a result, we have 10 to 20 on the helmet, we have 4 to 12, 4 to 7 on both rings, we have 5 to 15 on the belt, we have 10 to 20 on the necklace, and there's another shield that I have here that you can use in place of the tower shield, or in place of the rolled shield, for another 10 to 18. So we wind up with, say, like 120 added, which gets multiplied by 700%, and you're off to the races. So that is how you go about scaling Facebreakers. It's all in the gear, which is pretty achievable through the unique set. Everything I have here, if you buy on a budget or buy from the right people who aren't price fixing like a fucking Chinaman, it'll cost you maybe about 10 chaos. So, yeah, that's the Trade League on a budget in a nutshell. And you can fill the rest with whatever you want. The rings, you want the double steals here with res life, if you can roll something like that, or attack speed, if you're really in that sort of area as well. A Shaper Shield, if you can land it. Obviously, Trade League, it's going to be possible, but in Solo Self-Found, not as much. So you can use a Great Old One's Ward instead, which is a unique shield that gives added fizz to boost our damage. I have played an exact character like this, running the same setup with 5 or 6 uniques, or something like that. I had Dyed Bellow, Blood Grip, Meganords, and Facebreakers with a +1 shield, if I remember correctly, and I was resist capped. I don't know if I was using Soul Mantle on that character. I may have used a Astral Plate that was well rolled instead of Soul Mantle to supplement resist, but it's possible to resist cap, even with all of this. It just takes a bit of time. But as I said, since you're dumping 70 plus C into making the perfect item instead of your whole gear set, it's a lot more achievable. I dropped a Lion's Roar on the character that I played, so it is possible in Solo Self-Found. Take some good RNG. If you drop a Lion's Roar and a pair of Facebreakers, you now know how to use them. This is basically a free character if you get a set of Facebreakers in Solo Self-Found, and then you use those to use the setup to just keep farming, and eventually try and drop more and more unique pieces for the build. Thanks to the prevalence of Einhar and whatnot, getting a lot of uniques is pretty easy to do nowadays. Soul Ripper is kind of a meme. You can do some sort of shenanigans with Vol Warchief where it hops around and follows behind you. You can see that in the Ancestral Warchief Berserker video that should be linked somewhere. Maybe it was linked earlier. Who knows? There's a trick that I found where you can drop your Ancestral Warchiefs and charge off the screen, and they have to stay on screen with you for some reason. So they hop screens as you go. I haven't played it with the new Chieftain modifiers yet, so I don't know if that actually still works, but it worked at the time. It was pretty damn funny. Onslaught is free damage, and we'll pop over to the skills. Vol Ancestral Warchief, Ellie with attacks, Conk effect, melee fizz, elemental focus, and added fire damage. Now, you can actually break the totem limit here through a bit of cheese. If you're leveling normally, what you can do is you can put down a singular Warchief and then put down a Vol Ancestral Warchief. You can put down one extra totem than you're actually allotted to if you do it correctly. You can have, say you're capped at 3 totems, you put down 3 totems. You can also put down a Vol Ancestral Warchief over top to give you 4 totems on a boss. It's hilariously stupid. If you're on 2 totems, you put down your 2 normal Warchiefs, you put down an extra Vol Ancestral Warchief, and you've got 3 totems worth of damage on a 2 totem character. Found that one out myself and had a ton of mileage with it. It's pretty hilarious, and Warchief is great for bossing, so at Metamorph, this is going to be spectacular. Elemental damage, elemental damage, elemental damage, the best modifier in the game. Elemental damage, well, fizz damage, but it scales better. So all these more multipliers and added fizz, which is just fizz as extra, which multiplies off our bunch of base added, right? We're taking our base added damage from the uniques here and Facebreakers, and then just stacking more multipliers on top and slamming the shit out of things. It's pretty good. During Cry for life regeneration, Blasphemy Punishment for AoE Curse, because you are going to be in the front line pretty often, because when I was playing this, I was using Shield Charge with Fortify, and just basically running into everything. You can use Curse on hit Shield Charge if you want to as well, but Shield Charge is a bit different now, so I'd probably still take this route personally. Herald of Purity gives added fizz to attacks, which works perfectly with the build and what we're trying to achieve. Vol Haste is poppable on bosses, right? Big damage. Herald of Ash is insane AoE clear from the overkill explosions, which procs off of the totems. It's pretty damn funny. And then cast when Stone Golem for survivability. Tree, I believe this is an old tree. Actually, no, it's not. Really? Alright. Life, we pick up shield modifier for bonus damage. We pick up diamond skin for elemental resistance. Combined with the node up here, you can pick this up for elemental resistance as well if you're in a pinch. We grab that one, grab the shield mod, grab the life there, grab the attack speed and leech there. Come up for life totem modifiers, life attack speed, and totem placement speed. Placement speed is actually really nice for clear. Pop over, come down, grab Res Tech, come over and pick up Magmatic Strikes for Fizz as extra fire. Could also take Arsonist if you're looking to go that route as well for a couple of additional points. Barbarism for life and a bit of res. Life res, life res. Solves our resistance problem slightly. Elemental damage, minion damage, redemption. You can cut this if you want and take a different route. Maybe there's a cheaper alternate route. I don't know, I haven't looked at this skill tree in a long time, but I know it's still effective. So, Purity of Flesh for life. Avatar Fire for Fizz conversion, combined with the Chieftain node I talked about. Fizz to Fire conversion gives us 100% fire conversion. Every 10 seconds, gain 100% of Fizz damage as extra fire for 4 seconds. Massive damage steroid, doesn't calculate well in Path of Building. It's stupid funny and does a bunch of damage. Coming back over here, we go down here to get Shamanistic Fury for damage. We get Quick Recovery there for extra life, AoE, Discipline, and we're good. Elemental Overload doesn't go off at all because we don't crit, sadly. Kind of sucks, but I don't know. Maybe we could use Elemental Overload with an Orb of Storms or something like that, but I don't know. Max Life Res for a bit of extra resistance there. Fire damage up there. And that is basically the skill tree. In the Ascendancy, basically the same route, a little bit different. We go Nagamu's Flame Advance to start, like I said. And then from there you can go Death Fury if you want to. Alternatively, you can go Ramako's Sunlight, since they changed this and they made it a lot better recently with the changes to their Fire Over Time multiplier, if I remember right. Death Fury does let you cover enemies in Ash for bonus like bossing damage. So just to showcase, put that on, go to config. They're covered in Ash, right? But otherwise you can cut this, go there, turn off the Ash, and you're basically at the same damage, it's just more consistent with Sunlight. As I fucking slammed something on my desk by accident. I don't know. And then we get Tukahama's War Herald for damage dealt by your totems is leached to you as life, AoE while you have a totem, and then the Ancestor totems have increased activation range. This is what might screw with my little bit of technique that I was using previously when I played War Chiefs, but I don't entirely know because I have not played with this node yet, personally. But the build speaks for itself, and it's really hard to fuck up War Chief so long as you have Facebreakers. Like, it's really hard to fuck this character up. Then we have Moon Presence, which makes it so we're immune to fire damage. As I talked about, it makes it so you cannot kill yourself or kill your totems immediately with Reflect. Because I played a full physical build with this before, and when I rolled a Fizz Reflect map and didn't realize it, my totems would slam and kill themselves. Didn't work out very well. I still finished the map, but it just took a while to clear it. You could play this as Duelist if you wanted to go full physical with Facebreakers. Works just as well. I used to play it Berserker, but they nerfed Berserker. Well, they buffed it, but removed this build, which was my favorite build, which makes me sad. Maybe I try it again at some point as Duelist with, like, Impale or something. You could maybe even play Templar if you wanted to. It might be a little bit fucking weird, but maybe. Could work. So, yeah, that is my top 3 beginner, solo self-found, friendly, as simple as possible league starters for Metamorph League, or for any league going forward that these builds aren't touched or nerfed. So, yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. My name has been Wolf, and as always, take care, gentlemen.